Good evening viewers and welcome to the Art with World. I am your host ARSHAD. The month of December marks the first anniversary of our program Art with World, which started in 2023 with the main purpose to have discourse and discussions on various aspects of art, literature, performing arts and visual arts in Pakistan and abroad. During this last year, we have interviewed various authors, poets, actors, singers, musicians, painters and photographers and theatre persons as well. In addition to that, we have also discussed and invited cultural experts and with whom we just tried to explore what are the main issues of art and literature in Pakistan and how things could be improved. In this program today, we will discuss about various programs which we have shown you during our last year, and we will also show some of the clips from main programs of ours. Please keep watching. Let's take literature first. Our program started with a very engaging and illuminating discussion on fiction. What we mean by fiction, how it grew over time, what are the various aspects of novel and short stories, and after that we also discussed on poetry, how poetry evolved over time and how it best describes human feelings, its emotions and relationship of individual with society. We interviewed people, great distinguished poets like Kishwar Naheed, Iftikhar Arif, Dr. Najeeba Arif, WAHEED Ahmed, Irfan Ahmed Urfi, Akhtar Usman and Dr. Mahmood Nasir Malik and many others. And in addition to that, we also discussed and interviewed poets who were writing in English language in Pakistan like Ilona Yusuf, Ejaz Rahim and Madiha Arsalan. I can remember the level of discussions in those times. People were well versed with Urdu literature, Punjabi literature, English literature. They knew about their land, their culture, and they also knew what's happening around the globe.
Remember Mela Chiraga and then Multan, Urs over there also, or Mela Chiraga. At that time, Mela Chiraga was held in Shalimar in early days, and the people coming from villages on the horses, and they have been dancing, and people have been dancing, sitting on the floor and saying, Maini, Mekinu Dasa. This is the way.
Shouts and lines, Maini.
So this is the way that we were developed, and I'm lucky that I have been sitting with those people who were educated, were keen for literature and learning and going ahead in the society.
Kharsab, I had read many reviews and articles about you, but there is not much time to discuss all that. One point, I think Anna Sovorova wrote about you that your poetry is it's not just resistance but a sustained endurance as a protest to that situation. It just came naturally, or you just...
Sir, I had been telling this that I am not a very I am not a revolutionary of any kind, or for me it was important to reflect whatever I am feeling. And I protested and I wrote poetry of defiance in my own way. So I am not a political activist. There is a difference between political activist and literary activist, right? I mean, whatever I have to protest or defy, I am not a party member or a card holder, right? And I do not want to boast about it, that they are great people. I mean, Habib Jalib is a different genre. He is a great man.
We would like to hear from you if you have some translations of your poetry.
Some of the poems have been translated by my nephew, so I can present some of them. So there is a poem, its title is, in Urdu its title is Azal Abad Ke Darmiyan.
Okay. From beginning to eternity?
Yeah. In between eternities.
Okay.
If I'm ever destined to spend a day alone with myself, from dawn to dusk,
Wow.
from the moon's appearance to the last glare of the morning star, on an empty pathway with the fragrance of lost ages.
Wow, beautiful. Can
Find-
you just repeat it?
Sure. From the moon's appearance to the last glare of the morning star, on an empty pathway with the fragrance of lost ages, finding ground even in crazy winds, in the foggy airs of silence, breathing in deep, dense forests, atop a high mountain, in the abandoned caves of saints gone by, on the bank of fountain of eternity.
And then you went to writing for films.
Yes, film was
You wrote
yes.
for Baji, I think, it's a famous
Yes,
Pakistani
yes,
film.
Yes, yes.
So how was your experience?
That was very interesting, very overwhelming, and I was lucky to have Saqib Malik as my producer and director, and we both were on the same page. Basically, this is a teamwork, and luckily the subject and the plot and the characters which was to be incorporated in that screenplay was so close to our observation being in industry, so it was very comfortable for me to write on it, and it was a good experience, and I enjoyed that task.
And there was also a short English film which was made on one of your short stories, perhaps Gudiyan Patole.
Yes, this is one of my short stories in my first collection of short stories.
One Way Glass.
One Way Glass, my friend Numan Khalid actually produced and directed.
I've seen that film,
yes,
it's
in
wonderful.
London.
Yeah.
Thank you. And basically it was a festival kind of product for film festivals.
Okay.
And luckily it was screened in so many prestigious festivals all over the world. Even it was screened here in Pakistan. So that short films or parallel cinema is basically a good window to express yourself, to communicate yourself. That has a creative freedom basically. That is a medium or a genre of screenplay writing which has this freedom to write. So I enjoyed it. Even I had a small role in that.
But today is your show. We'll learn from you.
No, I'm just a student of literature, and
We all are.
you know that being updated in literature is quite a difficult job,
Yeah.
because people don't know the difference between modernism and postmodernism.
Yeah.
Especially postmodernism has maddened the people, and people went mad against for postmodernism. Wherever you go into the universities, you will see that they are talking about postmodernism, post-colonialism, post-structuralism, and like that, many stuff. But originally, till now, I haven't seen any man to talk about postmodernism properly, because postmodernism is quite a difficult job and quite a difficult aptitude, and it has concerns with economy. We only think that it has something to do with literature or with the culture. Especially it is an architecture and arts. It deals with these things.
Yeah.
So in Urdu and even in English, we don't have many examples of postmodernism.
The Dreaming Clay Jar, and sir, can I read the first poem The very first poem of the very first volume,
Please.
1993. A lifetime spent in distancing myself from you until distance itself began to dictate proximity.
Wow.
How fragile everything is about one's ears. Our eyes break in our own hands. Our eyes break in our own hands. Who can tell if the whole of one is forever alive? Who can tell if the whole of one is forever alive? Sometimes mere fragments of the dreaming clay jar begin to spark.
Wow, beautiful.
And can I also,
Sure.
again the imagery from nature, the clay jar as a pottery, an image.
We also interviewed poets and authors writing in national languages of Pakistan like Balochi, Punjabi and Sindhi, and discussed about situation of national languages in Pakistan. With Dr. Manzoor, we also discussed mother languages in Pakistan and what's their contemporary situation. There was also some kind of conscious movement to revive Punjabi identity, if I remember correctly. You have referred to this Punjabi Adbi Sangat, and there was other Sangat which was kind of founded by Professor Manzoor Ejaz Sahab, Najm Hussain Sayyid Sahab.
No, that's much later.
Much
That's,
later, okay.
But that's something different. Not much later, but later.
But that was kind of...
That was something very informal.
Okay, okay,
This was very formal structure,
okay.
the Punjabi Adbi Sangat.
But then there was also a lot of intellectual debates about reinterpreting Punjabi folklore. I remember I happened to attend some discussions in which like He Ranja was being interpreted as something as social comment, a revolutionary comment you can say, in which is challenging oppressive structures and cultures and social traditions. And then there were kind of revival of things like collectively going to Shah Hussain festival, Mela Charaga, which we used to say. And then there was also some effort to align this cultural movement with some political movements, revolutionary political movements as well. How would you like to comment on that era? And now looking back, how do you see all these movements?
I think it was a very difficult time for Punjabi language and literature.
Okay.
In 60s, there was a Majlis Shah Hussain.
Okay.
It was banned. So all these previous generation to mine, they struggled very hard, intellectually, socially and culturally. They had to give up so many things and privileges in order to restore the dignity and prestige of their language and culture.
Somehow your favorite writers and my favorite writers are kind
I
of
think
similar.
so. I think so. We are common, and Marquis and
100 Years
yes,
of Solitude.
classical 100 Years of Solitude, and then Kafka.
Kafka is
Letters I read, letters of Kafka were more than his fiction. And
Trial, Castle,
Castle, Trial,
Metamorphosis.
America, Metamorphosis. He has not been to America, but he has depicted America in a way. Castle.
was great, right?
Can you imagine somebody could write Castle?
I cannot, I mean, of course he has written it so someone can write it.
Can write
I
it.
can't imagine if I have to write, I can't do that.
That was very, very fascinating. And then there was one Chinese, one Belgic writer, I've forgotten her name. Her husband was a Chinese general during the Nationalist War in 1935. She had written about China and Chinese life and in a fictional form. I've forgotten the name. So there are so many things which were, but finally, ultimately, my own thinking developed when I started writing the first trilogy in Balochi literature.
I would like to start if you just give a background of Punjabi language and its evolution in different phases, and then how we can place fiction in Punjabi language.
Thank you very much, Arshad Sahab. I am so grateful for your amazing opportunity to talk about Punjabi fiction. I think when we try to trace the etymological origins of Punjabi language, and if we do not go too much back into the history, we can very safely go back to the 10th and 11th century, because as we know that Baba Farid, who is regarded the first Punjabi poet, was writing during 12th century, and it is logical that before him language was quite significantly developed and advanced, because the kind of poetry he has produced, the kind of vocabulary and syntax he uses in his poetic rhythm, it indicates that the language he was using for his creative expression was quite developed. So to begin with, if we use Baba Farid as our reference point, then we go back to the 12th century. And from 12th century till the emergence of Baba Guru Nanak, there are 300 years of time. And when we talk of Guru Nanak, we refer to the 15th century. So this becomes the first period in which Punjabi language was being used for poetic expression, and we have got written and documentary evidence in the form of Baba Farid's Kafis in Granth Sahib. And then we go, as we proceed further, we come from 15th century to the 18th century, and we can divide this period into a different poetic period. And from 18th century, then the period of colonialism starts, when the Britishers came to the subcontinent, and they were able to conquer or annex Punjab in 1849.
And you were a scientist. And how did it occur to you that you should be more active for development and preservation of mother languages and organize all these festivals?
Yes, I am a scientist, but I have a mother language also. And if I, early age, I was living in the village and probably could not understand many things, but going through, whole life and studies, traveling abroad, doing PhD in England, and all that brought me back that if I had not actually been learning, if I had not had the education, probably I would have still been there, tilling the lands with my father. But I realized that it was always my mother language that I thought, that I communicated in the first place, and if I am talking in any other language, many a times I think first in my own language.
Dr. Usma, what do you think about endangered languages globally and in Pakistan, and which are the languages which you think that they might end in next few decades or so? If you could just enlighten us on that.
According to UNESCO, language endangerment is a language, or a language when it is in danger, is the language which is when the speakers of that language cease to use it, and when they cease to use it in increasing communicative domains such as family domain, friendship domain, market domain, official domain, and then they decide not to pass on to their next generation.
In addition to great works of literature in Pakistani languages, we also discussed what was happening in the world around. We discussed Nobel laureates like Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Han Kang, and one of the most distinguished writers of our times, Milan Kundera. We also discussed their works like 100 Years of Solitude of Garcia Marquez, Vegetarian and Human Acts of Han Kang, and unbearable lightness of being of Milan Kundera. Just read your review which you wrote way back, I think in 2016.
2017.
When she was awarded Booker Prize.
Yeah, Man Booker Prize.
On her novel Vegetarian.
Yes.
So I would like to hear from you about this decision of Nobel Prize Committee and about her work and her novel.
The Nobel Committee usually works in mysterious ways, so nobody knows what they are going to do. So if you see before the announcement, there are a lot of chatter online and offline as well, that who will win, and there's also betting sites who bet on various authors. But Hong Kong was nobody's radar. Nobody.
She was somewhere down the list, I think.
I think much below the list. So it was quite unexpected.
Yeah.
But I was glad that I had already read one of her novels. Otherwise, last few years, Nobel Prize for Literature has been awarded to authors that I actually didn't know anything about them. But this was a familiar name, so I had a sigh of relief that, okay, I know her.
In our program, Art with World, many aspects of literature and arts were discussed with poets, intellectuals, authors of different languages, and those who were working in academia. We discussed art and literature, art and aesthetics, literature and politics, post-colonial literature, global novel translations, and art of storytelling, and many other issues like that. You have an illustrious career of working both in the fields of science and art and literature. But before I put up any question, I would like you to reflect upon your earlier interest in literature, how it developed and how it grew over time.
Well, as I look back, of course, my family background, you mentioned my great-grandfather, Maulana Hali, and my maternal uncle, Haja Ahmad Abbas. And of course, there were echoes of that in the family because several of my elders pursued careers in education or in arts and literature, influenced by these Hali and others.
I would like, you had just referred that you used to remember Musaddas-e Hali. So, any other influences of coming from family of Altaf and Hali on?
I mean, as I listened to my mother, who of course was the granddaughter of Hali's daughter, Maulana Hali had a profound influence, not only on the family but on the city of Panipat itself. Not only did he, not only was he a poet, but he was also, we could say, a social reformer, and he encouraged education not only for males but females. So he established the school there, which was I think till class 8th at least, which was a pretty big thing in those days for females, and our family females used to attend that school, and they used to bring out their own small weekly kind of a newsletter or something. So that you could say, you could see that influence started there.
In addition to literary arts, we also explored the world of cinema, particularly Pakistani cinema and the global cinema. Salman Asif gave a detailed account of evolution of Pakistani cinema, how Lahore became center of cinema and films, and who were the people who laid foundation of rich tradition of cinema in Pakistan, who were the great writers, who were the great poets, who were the great actors, what was politics of cinema in Pakistan, and how in initial periods it gave very important films in Pakistan, and how later it declined in Pakistan. After that, Arif Azad talked about global cinema, its main trends, its techniques, and how in different phases, in different periods, global cinema found its new ways and showed very diverse kind of films to the viewers. We were lucky enough that Dr. Jamal Shah came into our program, who is himself an accomplished actor and director, and he talked about art of acting, cinematography in both nationally, what was happening, and how globally its training institutions provided the best of cinema and films in the world. Film is relatively younger art form as compared to novels, poetry, music, general storytelling. How do you find its recent trajectory?
Hollywood system, the film world was largely, fantasy driven and the use of light and others. But soon, the documentary making or, factual filmmaking also took place. And the first film of like the representative film was, Nanook of the North. It was made by Robert, Flaherty, and it was about, like Inuit descent, like endangered, human being. And this film was filmed of that, community. It was more of ethnographic thing. And this, documentary like showed even the main character, actually dying. So it really. So yes, factual cinema plus, fantasy cinema or other, that was one division. And the largely it was also in the early decades, it was, silent movie era, of which the most important exponent is, Charlie Chaplin.
Oh.
And then you come, the sound gets added to the whole system, and then you get, the films with, like, the talking films, and then from black and white to color. And now you see the cinema is a worldwide movement, and different centers, Bollywood, Nollywood, Hollywood, and also, the European cinema has grown. And it has, really affected the popular tastes. It has influenced policy. It has broadened, collective imagination of the people. And so it has grown one of the most influential, media in our times.
Filmmakers from then East Pakistan, like Chakori, if I remember.
Yes.
It was made by Ehtesham,
yes,
director. Yeah. And very important thing I would like you to tell us a bit more about that. We had talked about poets, and one of our great poet Faiz Ahmad Faiz, he was also engaged with one film, I think, Dur Hai Sukha Gaon, that a place of peace is far away. And it was filmed in Dhaka and then East Pakistan, I guess. Would you tell us something?
So Kardar Sahib
and
Faiz Ahmad Faiz Sahib, they joined hands to create socialist realist cinema. The movie was called The Dawn Shall Come, but in Urdu it was called Jago Hua Savera.
Jago Hua Savera.
Yeah. Music was by Tamar Baran, who had come from West Bengal. And then Tamar Baran gave music to a number of Pakistani movies, and most importantly for Anokhi. Many of your viewers would remember the famous song Gaadi Ko Chalana Babu Zara Dheere Dheere Dheere. And Anokhi will also be remembered for Sheila Ramani, who had come from Bombay, an established actor there, an established heroine there, to act in this Pakistani movie. So Tamar Baran Sahib was the musiqar or the musician of this movie, and this also received international recognition. Socialist realist drama about the fishing community, but it also talks about, again, rootedness. It also talks about individual and community, the power of collective work, the kind of collectivism and dignity of persons who are grassroots people.
People of Pakistan love music, and we have various shades of music being practiced. We have a very rich tradition of classical music, popular music, regional music, and now there is also a trend of mixing local music forms and internationally known art music forms. We were able to invite Sarah Peter, who is an opera singer. She came from UK. In addition to practicing opera form of singing, she also mixes local folklore and opera form of music, and she performs in different functions. In addition to Sarah Peter, Arib Azhar also came into our program. He was a very well-known singer in Croatia, and later in Pakistan he is very well known as a Sufi singer. He also came into Pakistan, our program, and talked about various aspects of his art journey. Similarly, Jamal Shah, who is a great actor but also a very good singer, he also talked about music forms in Pakistan. And Saqib Sultan, who is a classical singer, he talked about history of classical singing in Pakistan and what's his situation in our contemporary music scene. So tell me about your music journey.
I think I'm still in the journey. I'm still learning new things. Basically I'm a Western classical singer, and I learned my Pakistani classical music as well. So recently I'm working on Sufi opera, which is a new genre of music I have created, and I'm working with the team in London with Paul Knight, who is the composer of Marvi's Tears, which is the story of Shah Abdul Latif Bhattai's Umar Marvi, from Umar Marvi. And we also have a director who's going to direct this opera in London. His name is Johnny Danziger, and the librettist is Zafar Francis.
Zlodoba za njega red ne važi, on mora sve da proba, to đavo vino traži. Ja ne pijem što uživam, ni što mi dobro stoji, pijem da njega napojim. Husn hakiki nure azal, husn hakiki nure azal, tenu wajib te imkan कहूं, तनु खालिक ज़ात कदीम कहूं, तनु हादिस खल्क जहान कहूं, तनु मुतलक महज वजूद कहूं, तनु अलमिया आयान कहूं, अरवा नफूस अकूल कहूं, अशबा आन निहान कहूं, तनु ऐन हकीकत माहियत, तनु अर्ज सिफत ते शान कहूं, अनवा कहूं, औज़ा कहूं, अतवार कहूं, औज़ान कहूं, तनु अर्श कहूँ अफलाक कहूँ तनु नाज नईम जनान कहूँ तनु तत्त जमाद नबात कहूँ हैवान कहूँ इंसान कहूँ तनु मस्जिद मंदर दैर कहूँ तनु पोथी ते कुरआन कहूँ तस्बीह कहूँ जुन्नार कहूँ तनु कुफ्र कहूँ ईमान कहूँ.
Can I request you to sing a few lines of your...
ما خپل تورکړه د ورور پزړه کې ما ته خدایا ما خپل تورکړه د ورور پزړه کې ما ته خدایا چې دشمن راغی چې دشمن راغی زپد ولا سسم پاته خدایا ما خپل تورکړه.
Theatre and dance were discussed throughout this year in a various program of ours, and we also invited theatre and dance artists in our programs like Zainab Dar, Fizaz Sayyed, Irfan Ahmed Urfi and Shahid Mahmood Nadeem. And how was your experience as a teacher of dance forms, Kathak?
Kathak. Oh my God, it's divine. Let me tell you. When I was doing it just for myself, I used to love it. But now that I'm teaching it, it feels divine. Believe me, it's like I can see magic happening in front of my eyes, and it's beautiful. And I've got a beautiful set of students. There are 10 people in my class now, all age groups, because I think my oldest student is 56 years old.
Really?
Yes.
So I can also be a student?
Of course. We teach all genders, all body types, and all age groups. So it's wonderful. Initially it was difficult because explaining people the essence of Kathak is very difficult. In this country, people perceive Kathak as a Bollywood dance. It's something that they see in movies. It's not.
What was the difference you felt while you were staging that, and what was the process of choosing this play?
So one very obvious process of choosing the play is if the French embassy sponsors your production, you choose a French play. But this is a play that had been in my mind for a very long time. Now, what is the difference between the original Greek Antigone and the French version of the play? In the original Greek Antigone, you have a young woman who stands up to a tyrannical ruler.
Yeah.
I find that the French Antigone is a lot more subtle, in that it is not so clear cut as in terms of here is a woman who is standing up to a tyrannical ruler. The stakes are not that clear, because in the French Antigone, the young girl is very much loved by that tyrannical ruler, who is a patriarch, definitely, and who is a ruler who is not completely tyrannical. There is a lot of subtlety in the depiction of the character there of the ruler, because he is an unwilling ruler. He has taken on power because there was no option for him. He does not want to be nasty to this niece of his. He has no choice. He has to set an example.
A lot of people who came into the court, someone said that it's fine whatever he has written, but some of the writers who were witness against them. And what happened with Manto in this country, it's very sad, I think.
Indeed, and
he was a genius in our literature, and he had to meet this fate.
Really, we killed Manto, and at an age when he was being so prolific, so creative. It was his...
he was in 40s when he died.
Yeah, early 40s in fact,
yeah.
So I think that's a sad story, but also that is a source of inspiration for writers who want to
tell the truth and do it in a creative way. So how Manto made like Sya Hashiye about the violence and the madness during the partition, the killings. I think that is the best possible or most objective understanding of the madness which accompanied partition.
Yeah, just one-page stories, but they tell a lot.
Half a page in some cases.
Yeah. And of course, you also stage his plays, Toba Tek Singh, I guess.
Yes.
And he had written two great short stories like Tetwal Ka Kutta and Toba Tek Singh.
Yeah.
Toba Tek Singh you staged.
Yeah, Toba Tek Singh, also Titwal Ka Kutta.
But that was read out by Uzma Gilani in that stage, I think.
That was Titwal Ka Kutta and Akhri Salam. But Toba Tek Singh was performed and then Naya Kanun was performed. In fact, in Naya Kanun, the Gora Sahab was played by the grandson of Allama Iqbal, Walid Iqbal, who is now a senator. So he was.
Yeah, he also tried in TV plays as well in his early time. Yeah.
So he did a good job.
Dance is a movement. So leaving apart what was in its old times, its classical presentations, now you have kind of mixed movements, music, lyrics, and social messages in your dance. So how did it evolve particularly, and how did you contribute this form of dance in your work?
Political or social work, when one thinks of art as a way of communicating to people or communicating a certain message or expressing, then movement, of course, and theatre is very important because there's a kind of magic that is created with the viewer and the performer, and there's a communication that leaves an impact on people's minds. And around 2008, me and some friends, we started a collective called Azad Awam Theatre Group, and we would, at that time I was still learning dance also, and that was a parallel to the street theatre that we were engaging in. And a lot of people would criticize me that, you know, the style you're doing is so classified and so far removed from common people that they would never understand what you're doing.
Art with World did not remain limited to national poets, authors and artists only. Authors and poets who were visiting Islamabad, we also invited them to our show, and they came in our show and talked about their work and other global movements in literary arts and performing arts. We were lucky enough to have with us Portuguese fiction writer Jorge Luis Peixoto and Brazilian author REHMAN, and also Portuguese ambassador to Pakistan, His Excellency Frederico de Silva, also came into our program and talked about various art forms, music, literature, poetry in Portugal. I would like to, I'm just wondering where should I start from? You are a cultural expert, you are a curator, you are a poet, fiction writer. So tell me a few things about your literary journey. What inspired you in literature, culture?
Well, I am inspired by my world, which is very close to yours. I am from, I live now, I live until now in the city I was born, an ancient city,
Historical,
a
UNESCO heritage,
heritage in Brazil, Ouro Preto, which means black gold, because gold was discovered with this oxide iron covered the first stones, and I think we have a lot of things in common, religion is very important. People are very connected to their families. Families live together, and also tradition, rules are very important to us.
We have just talked about Pessoa and Saramago. Who are the other writers? You like them? I mean, it's difficult to answer because there are many, but maybe if we could talk about few.
Well, if you are fluent in Portuguese language, then, and if you read, then you will have a lot to choose. Portugal has a very strong tradition regarding poetry. Our national poet from the 16th century is called Luís de Camões, and actually his main work, which is an epic text written, of course, in the 16th century, deals with the Portuguese travels to the subcontinent here, which of course is a very important moment in Portuguese history. We consider it the golden moment of Portuguese history, when we, a small country in Europe, made, I mean, I use the plural, but of course it was Vasco da Gama and all those sailors. They came through the coast of Africa in the Atlantic, then in the Indian Sea, till the subcontinent. We still, as a people, we treasure that moment.
Similarly, in visual arts, we covered art critics, curators, painters and photographers. That includes Asim Iftikhar, who is an art curator, Tabinda Chinoy, a renowned painter, and Mubin Ansari, a very renowned and very brilliant photographer of Pakistan. And with the landscape, I also want to talk about your own passion for capturing seasons of some areas you like most, like Skardu.
Just a few weeks ago, I just came back from Skardu. I was capturing the colors of autumn. It's my 10th year capturing autumn. And there's the reason why I've been doing it for 10 years now, going there for autumn, because it never gets old. And each time I learn something new. With Skardu or Hopper or Hunza, autumn and blossom are completely two different stories. It's absolutely beautiful. And you know, even during the time of the day, depending on where the light is coming from, it all looks so different. You could take a picture of the same place in different seasons, during different times of the day, and different stories coming out.
So, Tabinda, we are surrounded by so many beautiful paintings of yours. So, can you just give us a tour of your exhibition?
There's this woman, and she's in her sitting room, and she's lying on her couch and thinking what life can be and what she would like from life. And there's a painting of Sadiq Khan, because I just wanted to put a painting there just to show that it is, she's inside. And then there's the window at the back, and through the window, the first thing she sees is this bird, which looks larger than life, but it is like that because it's closer to her, you know. And it's just flying, it's free. There are other birds which are also flying, they're far away. So for me, birds, it's a symbol. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything, but for me it is showing freedom, showing what, if you have a talent, you should be allowed to show that talent. So that's what I like to portray. That's what I want to say through my paintings.
Beautiful.
Yeah. This one is very rough, and it is done with very strong strokes and a lot of pigmentation. And I mean, there's just that one bird. But again, it's the same thing. I mean, you know, she's got a slight smile on her lips, and she's again determined, as you can see.
So viewers, this is a brief summary of the programs which were produced last year. I'm thankful to our very efficient team led by REHMAN, Shakil Ahmed and Maria Ghafoor, who put their efforts to bring such an interesting and engaging TV shows for you. I'm quite hopeful that in future, in coming year, we will further improve quality and content of our program. Thank you for watching us. See you next Sunday.